And Dave, I was gonna buy you lunch, but we ran out of charge.
What do we do? Go to the gas station, get a bucket of electricity and bring it back?
Yeah, and that's not the only problem. I can't even charge it, so we're gonna have to get a rollback here, get this Leaf into Tech Garage, and find out what's going on.
John, our open's only 15 seconds. Think we can make it back?
You got any water? Whew. Welcome to Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com. Well, I got out of buying lunch for Dave, and I can show you why. The meter actually has OL, that's out of limits or out of luck. We're not charging. What does that mean? Well, the circuit's open from here to where it goes in there. And we'll show you what's going on one of the coolest demos a little bit later. But making that check, we had to go ahead and take the high voltage out of there. So we went ahead and did that. We followed all the safety precautions, and we unplugged the plug in there. We let it discharge to the manufacturer's specifications, and we're ready to go. Because when we're dealing with electric cars, well, there could be some high voltage issues, and it's dangerous. So we brought in an expert. This is Tom Rake. Tom from AVI, man. You are the hybrid and electrical guru, man. Walk us through the actual car. You know, we taunt always on Tech Garage. We got the coolest demos on the planet, and man, here they are. So walk us through the systems piece by piece.
Yeah, this is exciting because this is our future. And we brought one of our mock-ups up here, and this is a Prius hybrid. So this is an early model. We'll look at something else a little later, but just as a quick overview, John, we still have an ICE motor, or engine here, I should say. That would be an internal combustion engine. Now, it's been retuned for good fuel economy, low emissions and such, so it doesn't produce a lot of power on its own. But the secret here is we have two electric motors in this transmission also. When we combine this ICE engine and the two electric motors, we make a package that runs pretty darn good. Now, let's look at some of the parts real quickly here. We have the typical coolant systems and such, so we still need to service these vehicles maintenance-wise, so that's not going to go away, but we have some additional components and such. If we look over here, we've got something called an inverter. Now, all of our batteries and such are DC, as you're aware of, and we need to get efficient with these electrical vehicles. We need to turn that DC into three-phase AC, and that's the job of the inverter. So there's various different shapes, designs, different sizes. It depends on how much electricity we need to move. These systems can go anywhere from about 48 volts on the low end all the way up towards 1,000 volts.
Now, this is a high voltage system, and that's what the orange wires mean.
Absolutely. Anything over 86 volts has to be an orange. We don't know how much ahead of basically 86, but very simply, we got to make sure we're careful on anything orange. You're absolutely right.
And a little later, we'll show you all the safety precautions that a shop would use. But once again, Tom, they don't have to get intimidated. There's still brakes. There's still plenty you can do to this car, minus the really high voltage area.
John, you're 100% right. These are as safe to work on as anything else, as long as we follow proper procedures.
Cool.
Now, there's some other interesting things here too. You know, the hybrid or EV technology not only changes the way that we move the car, it also changes the way we stop the car. You know, we've heard the term regen braking.
Right.
And, you know, regen braking is possible because of the brake system, if you could point it out there for us.
Yeah, so this is the brake system right here?
You bet. And if you notice, it looks a little different.
Yeah.
And this brake system's kind of interesting because we have something called a pedal stroke simulator on here. You know, it would be a real shocker if someone would get in one of these cars and it feels like a totally different brake system. They'd be like, I got no brakes, you know?
Yep.
So what we do, the engineers do a very good job of making this thing feel like a regular braking system. So they're actually pushing on the brake pedal, but they're not applying the brakes at all. What they're doing very simply is pushing the hydraulic fluid,
right through there,
right,
through that little actuator.
Now
there's plenty other behind the scenes too, so this car's skinned down. Let's take a look at the back of the car.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and do that.
Well, there's a whole lot going on at the back of the car too. The actual car battery is located right there. Now that's the real battery provided by Dorman, and RockAuto.com has hybrid batteries as well, so you can replace the whole thing. But Tom, you guys at AVI, you took it to the next level once again, man. This is a cutaway. Guys, you know this is a dead battery. It's not live, or we would have safety equipment on.
Absolutely right. It's a good point.
Yeah.
Now, what we've done here, is, as you mentioned, is we've taken this apart so we can give technicians practical testing and ability to take these apart and reassemble them. And basically, that's why this isn't live. And what we've got here is we've got 28 separate modules. Now, different batteries have different amounts of modules. They can be smaller or bigger. And each of these modules actually has 6 separate battery cells in it. Totals about 7.6 volts per module. So you could take 7.6 in this case times the 28, and you'd have a situation where you know the battery voltage. Now, moving on, control module over here to control the whole operation. And then we have the infamous contactors. They, of course, go ahead and turn on and off the high voltage. So they're pretty important.
Now that's what they would actually connect to, but these are individual cells. Now, you had a good recommendation you told me earlier. I know a professional shop probably wouldn't replace cells. I mean, if it's shot, it's shot. What would they do?
They'd replace the whole battery in a remanufactured unit like the one you pointed out earlier. That would be the way to do it, because then there's a full warranty. The driver of the vehicle then has basically the right range, etc., and the battery's going to last a lot longer. If you just replace one cell, you don't know what kind of shape the other cells are in for sure, and there might be a situation where the next cell fails next week.
Yeah, and we always teach that at Tech Garage. A chain's only strong as its weakest link. Well, Tom, this is incredible, but even more incredible, we have the coolest demos on the planet. You don't want to miss this one, a running Leaf engine on a stand. We'll be right back with more Tech Garage presented by RockAuto.com.
Tech Garage presented by RockAuto.com is brought to you by RockAuto.com. All the parts your car will ever need.
Well, welcome back to this electrifying episode of Tech Garage, brought to you by RockAuto.com. Well, I promised you the Leaf motor on a stand. Voila, there it is. A running Leaf motor, I mind you. Got it turned on and ready to go. Watch this. Got the voltage right there. Bam, 287 volts. Let go. There's the regen brake and starts to charge it back up. But Tom, before we got to this spot, I needed an expert. It's a safety guy. We touched nothing. And don't touch your electric vehicle at home. Get a professional like Tom to do it. Why, Tom?
Well, right you are, John, because personal protection equipment is very important. I've got 1,000-volt Cat 3 certified gloves on here, and we use these, face protection, etc. There's other steps, too, depending on the vehicle you need to take. Always follow the OEM recommended manufacturer specifications when you service one of these. Obviously, working in these is not real good, so our goal here is going to be go ahead and get the high voltage away from here. Then we can pull the gloves off and do our work.
Now, Tom, as a professional would do, why don't you demonstrate taking the high voltage away?
Yes, let's do that. First thing we're going to do is cycle the key off, of course. That takes the 12 volts off.
That's right.
And then I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to go ahead and pull the high voltage. Now, you'll notice it doesn't necessarily go away right away. Look at our meter.
There we go. So, yeah, it's dropping little by little. So it's going to take some time. So make sure you follow your manufacturer specification no matter what you're doing.
Absolutely. And that gives us some time, John, as we can talk about some of these parts. Right over here, of course, we have the DC to DC. This replaces your alternator. It's a control source. It also helps recharge this high voltage battery. It also recharges the 12-volt battery down here in the case. From there, we go to the traction inverter right over here. This is what we call a stacked assembly. All the items are stacked together. Some electric cars, these parts will be in different parts, and we use wire to run to them. Then, of course, we have the recharging unit for the 110 plug-in or 220 plug-in. And then, of course, the motor, the most important part.
Yeah, speaking of the motor, you got a pretty cool trick. This is a ginormous magnet, man, almost like a starter motor or a big alternator with a rotor or a stator.
Absolutely, and it has a very, very strong magnet in it, so you want to keep in mind you don't want to be doing this all day long. So we'll show you a little trick, because there's an OEM tool to do this. There's no electricity on here whatsoever, of course, so we're going to put our can down. If you notice, basically the center is called the rotor. This is called the stator on the outside. To go ahead and service it, we can use this very expensive tool. Watch what I do. Hands are not in here anywhere. Right on the outside. There we go. Okay? So there's our rotor. Very strong magnet. Now to put it back together, it's real simple. Place it in the center. Watch what happens when I go ahead and pull this up to get it close.
Man, that is
goes right in place.
That is phenomenal.
That's how strong the magnets are.
Yeah, that is something right there. That's how we're making all this power on the regen braking and also on the motor side of it. So on our Leaf, Tom, pretty simple. I got the connector right over here. Now that it's powered down, how's our meter look?
Well, we're looking at 0 volts, John.
That's a good thing. So I don't need the gloves. I'm good to go. If I pull this out right here, you can actually see the little resistor in there. Those burn. Once they burn, I can't get any charge to the car. No charge to the car. We're not going anywhere, are we, Tom?
Here, unless you take a cutaway Prius.
Well, thanks to AVI and this incredible demo they sent up here on Tech Garage. You know, we're going to go to a commercial break, but we got our K10 with the Keep It or
Crush It!
You two, really? See you right after break. Thanks, Tom. I appreciate that. Welcome back to Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com. Well, it's one of our favorite segments. Keep it or crush it. And Dave, we're talking about this rare truck right here. It's a 1984 K10 pickup truck, man. It's a Scottsdale. This thing is phenomenal. You know, we got this thing for about $1,000. They go for $8,000 if we wash it, clean it, get it running, or we could go all the way with it. And this thing get fetched $30,000 to $50,000 at the auction block. It's unbelievable.
And we decided we're going to take it just to that first level where we're going to get that $8,000 price range, and we'll let somebody else do the restoration if they want to go that far.
Or I may keep it.
Hey.
We'll see. Dave, what do I look for in a truck? We're out here for an initial inspection. What do we want to look for?
Just like anything else we do with Tech Garage, you're pulling the tires off, you want to do a visual inspection of the brakes when we're doing that in the shop. When you walk up to a car and you want to look at it for a flip or to buy a used car, first thing you want to look at is see if the frame's bent. If you look down the line, down the edge, and you see that the rear wheels are out and the thing's crabbing down the road, it's clearly been in an accident and you want to walk away from that deal altogether. Now, another one that's a red flag, but not necessarily a no-go, is looking at the gaps between all of the panels, talking the hood, all the quarter panels and the doors, making sure those gaps are consistent as you go from front to back on the gaps or up and down on the gaps, and making sure they're consistent from the left side of the car to the right side of the car. If they're not, it could have been an accident. So again, I said it's a red flag, but there might be another cause. Maybe somebody hasn't mounted it correctly, and that's an easy fix. Just be aware of something like that when you see it.
Right, you get a vehicle this old, Dave, you start dealing with rust. I mean, you know, this one, not so bad. There's some rust there, but if it's totally rusted out, when we go to tow it, it's flopping on the ground, walk away from it.
Structural damage, not good.
Structural damage, like the body shop issues, we're talking about $30,000 in body shop money just to go through the thing completely restored. So you might want to walk away as that. Another thing, mechanical integrity. That's huge. I mean, we start getting into the engine, we don't even know what we have. You want to make sure it's factory and it looks good. So let's take a look at the engine, but I got to warn you right up front, all right?
Yeah.
And a disclaimer to the camera crew. I think there's a ton of wasps, snakes, raccoons. I don't know what's under there, but I got my wasp spray. I'm ready to run.
The joys of finding a barn find in Florida, no doubt. If you're dealing with wasps, I'm going this way.
Yeah, bye, Dave. Well, when you're going to get in there, just make sure. First thing, I know there's a big wasp nest here, so I'm going to nail that. Make sure they drop. There they go. Oh, man, they're all over the place. Ah! All right, well, hopefully that took care of that. Well, I don't know. They'll fly around. We'll deal with it. But one can of wasp spray is a must when you pull something out of the woods. I start dealing with it. I'm going to come in here and just make sure and see what's in there. Now, I took a peek earlier. I know we have an engine, but what I'm looking for, oh boy, yep. Yeah, we got a snake skin over there. I don't know where he is, so I'm not going to get too close. We got all kinds of varmints in here, but what we do have, which is really cool, is a V8 engine. Don't know the mechanical integrity of it, but I got all factory parts on here, man. That means it's not been modified. That is huge. So we can keep this thing factory. We'll have to do a mechanical inspection inside. You have to join us for that next week. But it's important to have the inside mechanically sound. Not only mechanically sound, we want to make sure that the inside looks good as well. Dave, what do you got?
Johnny, we talked about the lines and looking at the gaps here, and I'm looking at the door. This is pretty darn perfect, and I love this. Check it out. Usually, cars this old, vehicles this old, the doors will sag, but not this one. It actually closes really nicely, which is a pretty good sign and a pretty rare deal. Now let's take a look at the interior. It's, well, it's seen better days, but if you look, these are notorious for having the dashes cut. People want to put different instruments, maybe update them. This one is actually original. We also have the original stereo there. That is a rare find, so super cool. We do have the body panel here from the passenger door. I don't think we're going to be able to save that. And as far as the seats go, well, you can go through the trouble of getting them reupholstered. But if you want to stick to an OEM type replacement, Rock Auto can help us there. John Gardner, what's going on underneath the vehicle?
Yeah, Dave, you enjoy that air conditioning while I swelter out here in this Florida heat, not to mention the wasp. But thank God for the Magic Creeper. It made easy work getting under there and checking it out. Well, what am I checking it out for? Well, we're looking for any structural damage. Dave mentioned that before. You know, we want to make sure the frame's not bent, broken, everything looks pretty straight. There's surface rust on it. Matter of fact, there's surface rust all over this truck. That's okay. I just don't want it rusted through where it's going to collapse or break. You can take a Scotch-Brite pad, scrub it all up. You can even have that patina look. We'll deal with that when we get to it. Now, the engine, there's no oil, there's no coolant massively pouring out of it, but we're not quite sure about the mechanical condition, so you want to stick with us till next week. We'll check into that and see how the mechanical condition. We'll get it down to the shop. But right now, we need to check in with Tom and Dave.
The technology in electric cars is mind-blowing, but it doesn't have to be intimidating, Tom, because the electrics are just a small part of what goes on in an electric vehicle. Now, RockAuto.com has batteries and things like that for electric vehicles. What else can I get on Rock Auto for my electric vehicle?
Yeah, a lot of the parts are identical to a gas-powered vehicle. The brakes, the wheel hubs, shocks, axles are the same. And yeah, don't let the car manufacturers, some of them would like you to buy a new car every 5 years and throw away your old one. Fight for your right to repair your vehicle. And since as a kid, I remember being told that these new high-tech cars, we can't work on these anymore. And the fuel injection, you can't work on that, and that wasn't true. You can still work on cars. We may be entering a golden age for new gas-powered cars too. Some of the car manufacturers have said we're putting all our energy into electric vehicles, so the gas-powered cars may stay the same for the next 15 years. So if they don't change anything, parts will be more readily available, easier to work on. You get familiar with your last car, you can work on your next car. So it could actually be a golden age. And we have like the battery packs for hybrid vehicles. An electric car doesn't have to be a disposable thing.
And to boot, you know, with gas-powered cars, a lot of folks are saying those are maybe even more green if you keep maintaining them instead of buying a whole new vehicle to begin with.
Right, yeah, electric vehicles make a lot of sense for fleets where they put 80,000 miles on the vehicle every 2 years. But if you keep your car for 15 years and put 100,000 miles on it total in that time, then yeah, the gas power can be greener.
In the coming weeks, you'll see how RockAuto.com lives up to their name. They have all the parts your car will ever need. We've got lots more Tech Garage presented by RockAuto.com. When we come back, don't go anywhere.
Tech Garage presented by RockAuto.com is brought to you by RockAuto.com. All the parts your car will ever need.
Well, welcome back to Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com. Well, we made it to the Garage Ed segment. This one's all about the blower motor. Now, the blower motor does exactly what it says. It blows air into the system, and that's what you feel, that air-conditioned air either coming through the evaporator or coming through the actual heater core. But this is in the air duct system. How does it work? Well, in true Tech Garage fashion, we have to look at a schematic. I'll show you how it works. So on the schematic itself, you can actually see what's going on. Old school one there on the left, well, I'm coming in from the fuse block down there on the left-hand side, going through a heater control assembly and then to the switch. And if you notice on the switch, if you go down through high, you're actually pulling in a high-speed blower relay, and then over on the other side, that dark blue 12 volts is going directly to the motor. So we should feed the source voltage directly to the motor, and it should spin pretty fast. Now, if you go back to the switch up there and you go through the brown wire all the way to the top, you're going through 1, 2, 3 resistors over there. That cuts the voltage down, and it goes slow, it goes in low. If we go to medium 1, we're going through the tan wire, we're going through 2 resistors. That's medium 1. If we want to go a little bit faster, we'll go to medium 2 through the light blue wire, through 1 resistor, and then it feeds the voltage a little bit more. So depending on the voltage is going to depend on the speed of an old school blower motor. And Josh, can you give me a hand, because we can actually demonstrate it in action with one of the coolest cutaways on the planet once again. So if I put the meter up here, and I go to volts, I can come across and I can show you right now I'm going to the ground and then the blower motor wire, and you can see we have no voltage. So Josh, if you fire this thing up in high, we got high, so that's that full voltage going to the blower motor. If you step it down one there, you can see we cut some voltage, we're down to about 9 volts, and you hear the blower motor went a little slower. One more time, and bam, we're down to 8 volts, dropping down to about 8.13, and then we got low. We can go all the way over, and that cuts it down. It's blowing real slow. That's about half voltage to the motor, and that's causing it to go slow. You can actually see the resistor block right here. Now that resistor block is 1, 2, 3 resistors that will cut the voltage down and cause the blower motor to go slow. Now, if you look at the graphic once again, the new one, well, not so much. It's computer command control. It's actually running through the computer, and Josh, it works a little bit different. You got an awesome analogy, and show us how that works.
Right, nowadays the computer is actually sending pulse width modulation. What that means is it's just sending pulses of voltage. And how I like to look at it is on the playground, we have what was called a merry-go-round. They're not on playgrounds a whole lot anymore, but it's sure a lot of fun. You get the pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. The more you pulsed it, the faster and faster it went, and people started to fly off. Well, it kind of happened. Well, it don't happen on a squirrel cage on a blower motor, but the same concept is it goes faster and faster and faster the more that the computer pulses the voltage to the blower.
So like 90% would be medium high, 100% it would just be spinning, 50% on, off, and then they're feeling that kind of medium speed.
Right.
Well, Josh, that's been pretty electrifying, but even more electrifying is our Nissan Leaf. Let's wrap this thing up. Well, it's been a great day here at Tech Garage. Our K10 is going to make a perfect keep it or segment. Garage Ed was phenomenal with blower motors, but Dave, this is the icing on the cake, my friend.
This is incredible. This demo, we get to see an electric car from front to back for the first time and really how it all works.
Yeah, and I owe you lunch, man.
Cool, let's get the Leaf.
Wait, whoa. The Leaf's charging. Remember, it's going to take a little while. I know the guys at AVI. They gave me carte blanche with this bad boy. We're rolling this thing.
This is not safe, John.
It's safe for me. I got a seatbelt.
Oh, yeah, seatbelt. Well, if I make it till next week, we're going to have a lot more on Garage Ed, talking about new technology and direct injection, and also we'll see our K10 once again. So, from our entire crew here, and maybe for the last time, we'll see you next week on Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com.
Hang on, Dave. Hang on. Woohoo! We're rolling topless, baby.
Production assistance provided by Chipola College in Marianna, Florida. Chipola was founded in 1947, and it was recently ranked among the top 3 community colleges in the United States.